Nintendo is looking to make it much easier for you to get their next system and much harder for scalpers to take advantage of all that goodwill.
Here we go.
Welcome back to another video. If you're a fan of a particular platform, the launch of a new generation has you incredibly excited. Maybe you can't wait to take your kids to get that brand new system, or maybe you're a big kid yourself and you're in line or you're online ordering. You can't wait, but then there are those people that take advantage of that joy. They take advantage of that situation and they buy up all of the stock that they can just so they could take that joy and that emotion and monetize it. These evil, scummy scalpers. Well, the original Switch came out, and yes, it went through that period where it was hard to get and some people were scalping them online, but it was a much better launch than the PlayStation 5 or even the Xbox Series consoles. But Nintendo is looking to do something when it comes to the release of their next system. I didn't have that hard of a time getting a Switch, but the PlayStation 5 was impossible to get unless you wanted to pay ridiculous prices, and even the Xbox Series X was impossible to get. I got a Series S first because it was much easier to get. Hopefully, Nintendo's strategy will pay off. But what is that strategy, and is it something that we can count on? Does it mean that we'll be able to get that brand new Nintendo system on day one? So I'm going to go over the article that details Nintendo's strategy for scalpers. But when I first heard it, I thought, well, that's kind of obvious. Can you really do that? And I hope that they can, because as obvious as it is, it would completely and totally negate scalpers. Totally. They would have zero power over you. They would be completely irrelevant. And you might ask yourself, what is this one thing that Nintendo can do that's so obvious? Well, let's go through the article and then we'll talk about it. Nintendo President Shuntaro Furukawa was asked by an investor during the latest general meeting of shareholders if the company is considering ways to prevent scalpers from buying up stock of the next console and reselling it at inflated prices on eBay and various other online retailers. Furukawa said that their plan is to produce and ship as many units as possible to meet consumer demand. Once they are confident that that goal is possible, then they will consider how best to avoid bulk buying and reselling. This is a direct quote from him. With regards to resale measures when launching new hardware, we recognize that the most important thing is to first produce and ship in numbers that can meet customer demand. We will then consider whether there are any other possible measures that can be taken. Now you might say to yourself, well, that's obvious. If somebody makes tons and tons of systems and floods the market with them upon release, then certainly all the customers that are in line who want to get those systems will get one. They'll have no trouble. They won't have to turn to scalpers, and scalpers will have no power over the consumers. That's obvious, but here's what's important in this article. They're not saying that they recognize that reality, and if that happens, then scalpers would have no problem. That would be obvious. What they're saying is they are currently investigating ways to make sure that they can produce enough systems to meet demand. So that means that internally, they're finding ways to make sure that they can produce and ship a multitude of systems upon release to take that power away from scalpers. They're not saying they recognize the idea that if you have a lot of stuff, people can't sell it for a high price. They're saying that they want to find a way to make sure that they could make a lot of stuff. And that's important internally because it means that they're actively working now to produce the next Switch, and they're making sure that they're producing a whole lot of them to meet demand. Now, what's demand? How would they know what demand would be? Well, based on the Switch demand, based on Nintendo in general, I'm sure they have some sort of internal metric to tell them how many systems they need, say, at launch. If they can meet that number or exceed it, which is what they're talking about here, they're talking about exceeding that number by a lot. They're going to take the power away from scalpers, and everyone who wants that brand new Nintendo system will be able to get one day one. Now look, do I think that this problem can be 100% relieved? Do I think that there aren't going to be scalpers with the next Nintendo system? I think that there will be, but I'm hopeful that Nintendo internally right now has recognized, and according to this article they have, and can produce more systems than they did with the Switch and try and ship them to retailers as fast as possible to stop this problem. Let me know what you think in the comments section below. Think about liking and subscribing to the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.